Good evening, everyone. I was just about to touch the mic, and Mike Weinstein told me several times, don't touch the mic. I'm the president of the Centre Wellington Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber recently went through a strategic planning session and reviewed our focus and values, and we came up with something that we'd always been working towards, but we hadn't really actually put it down on paper, and the official purpose is to help businesses succeed. So helping businesses succeed is what the Chamber is all about, and the focus being on educating, informing, and networking. And this evening really falls into the premise of informing, educating, and networking, and it also helps for businesses to gather information to be able to succeed in their businesses. We realize that local business is most affected by municipal government, so we see great importance in keeping businesses updated about local activities and programs. This evening we'll update businesses of infrastructure projects and programs within the municipality. The focus will be, as always, on timelines, locations of projects, and the impact it'll have on your business and allowing to plan around those projects. I'd like to thank everyone for coming and just briefly touch on the procedure for the evening. When you came in the main door, there's a washroom there, and there's more upstairs if anyone needs them. When you first came in the door, there are some pads of paper and pens. If anybody wants to grab a pad and paper and pen to jot a few points down for questions, you can do that. After in the past, we've done presentations or questions, I should say, at the end of each of the presentations. I think this time, just because there's so many different topics, after each presenter does their presentation, if you have a question, Roberta is at the back. She'll have a portable mic. If you do have a question, you can just put your hand up. She can come to you, and then you can ask a question of the presenter. We are combining a couple of the county and the municipal events in this evening. The county seems to be a little more removed from the municipality, but a lot of things that happen economically within the county have a huge impact on us in our municipality. We usually do a county forum in the fall, but this year with the election coming, we opted to incorporate any of the county infrastructure projects as well as the hospital redevelopment into this evening to be able to touch base on all the different things that are happening within the township. I see Joanne just walked in. If you've had a chance to catch your breath, if you wanted to just come and say greetings.
Thank you very much, and I literally did just fly in. Thank you very much for inviting us here this evening. I'm just delighted to be able to look across here and see these fine people sitting here. Our staff is the most amazing staff in Centre Wellington, and I think that you'll find that the agenda that we have in this community is vibrant, it's full, it's exciting, and it's just taking us into the future in such a great way. I'm very proud of the things that are happening in the community, and I think that they will be just more than delighted to tell you the various projects that they're working on, because each and every one of them have a very full plate of activities that they're responsible for. Janet mentioned a little bit about the county. We actually are very strong partners with the county, so if you have any questions with regard to that, I'm certain that we overlap in so many ways that they'll be able to accommodate those questions. If they're county related, that would be just fine. So I'm looking forward to the evening so you can see how the agenda for Centre Wellington is something that we're all very, very proud of, and I'm very proud of each one of these individuals who will be able to take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Our first speaker will be Colin Baker, speaking about infrastructure projects in the county and in our municipality.
Great, thanks very much. So my presentation is going to focus on just a couple of different perspectives, kind of looking at kind of the year that was, 2013, some of our kind of significant accomplishments in 2013, and then also look forward at the year ahead. So there's the agenda for this evening, and we'll section here. Roads, kind of right-of-way maintenance, and then also engineering as well. So 2013 was a busy year for us. We had some significant construction projects on the go. Here's an example of one that was very important from our perspective. Second line in the former township of Nickel, just to the south of Fergus, that road that kind of goes from Highway 6 about midway to Side Road 6. We did a significant portion of that road. So it's that road is significant in the sense that it sees a lot of truck traffic, a lot of trucks going to Jefferson, Elora Corporation. In fact, it actually sees about 200 vehicles, truck vehicles per day. So it's kind of an economic backbone, I think, to the community. So we proceeded with the upgrade of that road. There's another example. So Bellwood. I like to call it the extreme Bellwood makeover. If you've been out there lately, it's a different town. The main street. So this is the second phase that we completed last summer, and you can see this is kind of the piece from Wellington Road 26, kind of midway down to the little creek there, and just tidying up, getting sidewalks in, new pavement, upgrading the storm sewers, and just making it a space that the community can be proud of. So you haven't checked it out yet, go check out Bellwood. It looks great. So just some other highlights from 2013. In Elora, I think our big reconstruction project was Irving Street. We did a section from Colburn up to John Street, the frontage along St. Mary's School. We're continuing to work on Colburn-Geary, the intersection, extending services to the Keating apartment building there at the corner of Geary and Colburn. We also looked at the piers, so Victoria Street Piers in Elora. Plans for, at some point, to put a new pedestrian bridge on those piers. So we did an inspection last year, just looking at the structural integrity of those piers, and great news, they're in excellent shape for their age. So they'll be able to be repurposed at some point for a future pedestrian bridge. And Fergus, so obviously the big project in Fergus related to Tower Street. The bridge itself was a Wellington County project, but the township had a pretty significant role to play as well. We have a pretty major trunk sewer, and you can kind of see part of the trunk sewer going in front of Melville United Church there. And that was a project that went extremely well, very smoothly from just an overall management perspective. But significant gas infrastructure on that, sanitary and water infrastructure. We also did Garfraxa Street resurfacing, so a section that is kind of notoriously in rough shape, and that got resurfaced last year with a little bit of extra money left over because of some favorable asphalt prices in our other contracts. Bellwood showed a picture of that George Street reconstruction. We also were into one of the subdivisions out in Bellwood as well, Amelia Crescent, and really upgraded that road there. On the rural side of things, we were looking at one of our rural structures. You can see that so great, but basically we replaced a rural bridge, an old single-lane bridge that was in really rough shape, and brought in this kind of precast structure here. And so that was a pretty significant project for last year. We also rebuilt some of our gravel roads on First Line in the former West Garfraxa Township. I talked about Second Line already. And then we're also looking at a structure called 16WG, WG being the former West Gary Township, and just looking at it's on Fifth Line in West Gary, and just looking at it's nearing the end of its life cycle, so we want to start getting some background information on that and getting it ready for replacement. We also had a lot of snow last winter. Is anybody else sick of the snow? It was a pretty challenging winter just from an operations perspective. Probably from what I've heard, the worst winter that we've had in probably over 30 years. Just an example, we've got these special V-plows that go on the front of our graders, and you only bring them out when it's the worst of conditions, and they hadn't been used since 1986. And then we brought them out this winter. So just to give you an idea of the magnitude of the winter. And this is a picture we've had too many times this winter where, cars we get stranded in the middle of the road and make it very difficult for winter operations. And so yeah, just a challenging winter overall. I hear, though, in the news this winter it's a La Nina, I think, so it's going to be a slightly warmer winter, so hopefully that bodes well. We also had the ice storm, too, so to deal with, and obviously we're still in the process of doing cleanup now for the ice storm, so that's another thing our department is working on. So now looking forward to this year, 2014, we've got our capital program. On the rural side, we've got the second phase of second line, so from County Road 7 to Side Road number 6. And so that'll complete that link between Highway 6 and Highway 7. We're also doing an asphalt road that's in really rough shape today, the link from the County Road to Maple Leaf Acres. So that's going to get resurfaced this summer as well. There we go. So on the urban side of things, we've got kind of a cluster of projects that are sort of related to the landmark development, the Elora Mill, also the development on the south side of the river. We're looking at Price Street. So if you can picture Price Streets, that goes from Mill Street up to Church, very steep. It's a great place to find parking if it's busy downtown Elora. And it needs some upgrades. Sidewalks. We're going to look at upgrading the storm sewers in that area as well, and looking to do that work, kind of time it so that it's done in advance of the Elora Mill reopening. Also in that area, there's a sewage pumping station that we're also going to give a bit of an upgrade to and replace this year as well. There we go. Oh, a couple came up there. So that little project there is, it's difficult to see, but that's Melville Street in Elora from Church to Colburn. So that'll be a reconstruction project for this year. We've been slowly, kind of block by block, getting the storm sewers, creating new storm sewers from the river, kind of working our way to higher ground in order to get storm sewer services to Colburn Street. And the plan is really to revamp all of Colburn Street, and it's a pretty important collector road within the community. But before we could do that, we had to get storm sewers, give a storm sewer outlet for that street. So we're slowly getting the pieces in place in order to be able to do that. But Colburn is a project that we'll see in the next couple of years go forward. So this is Water Street from Bridge to High Street. And what we're doing this year, it's not going to construction this year, but we're going to spend some time doing the design, sitting down with the community, going over kind of the considerations, some of the opportunities, constraints associated with that stretch of road, and kind of bring it up to a modern standard. Looking at formalizing the pedestrian crossing at the pedestrian bridge to Bissell Park, sidewalks as well. I think we can get sidewalks on one side of the road. So that's a project that it's a big project for us. It's going to take the full construction year next year, probably right from as soon as we can, in the construction season, probably right till December. But that'll be a big project for 2015. Oh. There we go. Don't want to forget the Elora wastewater treatment plant, another big capital project to help service future growth in the community. So that expansion's underway, and we're kind of in the phase now where the buildings are there. We're starting to commission some of the new equipment, testing out some of the new programs, and so that's going to be happening throughout the next 3-4 months. So in Fergus, our road reconstructions for this year, we've got just a small piece of what we call Norman Craig Square, basically the road that goes around the cenotaph. So that's going to get reconstructed, the sewers and the water replaced there as well. We have St. James Square, it's just this little piece here. That's going to get rebuilt as well this year. And Hill Street West, there's a block between Beatty Line and I believe it's Maple that's in really rough condition. So we're going to reconstruct that piece, add a storm sewer to deal with some drainage issues that we're having in that area. So will happen this summer as well. And also, can't forget, we've got subdivisions on the go too. We've got Strathlee up at the north end of Fergus, Beatty Hollow, one of the Keating subdivisions as well on the go this year. There'll be construction. There'll be a flurry of activity. And then, of course, as Gord will speak to shortly, the county campus. And I believe we're going to see some action there later this year as well. So I just wanted to have a slide here on the bridges too. As you're likely aware, we have a lot of bridge structures in this community. I believe the number is up to about 105 bridges, culverts that are greater than 3 meters of span, and so we've got a program that's kind of working away at those. The first two, we've got class environmental assessments that are just near the end of the process, looking at kind of the preferred option to deal with the advanced deterioration of those two structures. This is one on Third Line. This is one on Side Road 20. We've also just as recent as last week, completed some repairs. There's a bowstring bridge on Side Road 15 at Living Springs. We did some guide rail improvements in that area, and then also at this structure here. And then we just have a contract that's out for tender right now, closing tomorrow, that will look at these 4 structures. So 8th Line, which is a bit of a busy route through the community. 8th Line will be closed probably for 2-3 weeks while this work is being done, and then we've got some other work. 2nd Line here. This structure is going to be worked on just to the west of Fergus, and and some work up on this structure as well. So we're chipping away at the bridges this year. Also, this structure here is scheduled for replacement, so we'll be fitting that into the capital program. So just some ongoing studies. You may have heard that the St. David Street Bridge in downtown Fergus, it's nearing the end of its service life. So we had a detailed structural assessment completed by the township's bridge engineers last year, and they're basically recommending largely a replacement of the superstructure. So essentially a replacement of the entire bridge, and that's required. So this bridge used to be part of a program called the Connecting Link program, which provided some funding for the municipality, but that program unfortunately no longer exists. But MTO still, as it's part of Highway 6, is still taking an interest in kind of reviewing some of the recommendations. So they're taking a look at the report. With the high flows that we've seen this summer, with the snow melt just recently, we've got even some erosion that's happening around the abutments of the bridge. So we're actually going to be in there this summer just shoring things up. We've got a storm sewer that was undermined that's right beside the bridge, and some pretty significant erosion that we need to deal with. So you may see that happening at some point this summer. And this summer we're going to inspect all 105 structures. We keep a close eye on them. Every 2 years we do a full engineering inspection on each structure. On the environmental services side, we've got a long-term water supply strategy in the process currently. We've looked at a well field capacity assessment, so just looking how much water we have, how much do we need in the future. We're in the process of renewing what's our permit to take water issued by the Ministry of the Environment, so that's underway. We're also completing a wastewater servicing strategy. Look to wrap that up this year, looking at our wastewater sewer infrastructure into the future. Already mentioned the Elora wastewater treatment plant expansion. And then directly connected to that is the Clyde Street sewage pumping station expansion. So that's the one that's just in behind the LCBO in Elora. Lots of action going on there. So that's a pretty significant expansion to that station. It's a very important station. All the sewage flows from Elora go through that site, and then it gets pumped to the wastewater treatment plant. So as we expand the plant, we need to expand the pumping station that supplies the plant. And then I mentioned the Mill Street pumping station replacement this year as well. And just a couple pictures to close things off. This is the Elora plant. This is kind of an interesting picture here that was taken last year. We've got one of the benefits of this new plant is it's going to have full backup power. And this is the generator. It's I think of like an 18-cylinder V18 or something engine that will run the whole plant. So even if we have a power outage, we won't lose the ability to continue to treat the wastewater. So that's great news. And so we had to actually lift it over the existing MIN building to put it in place. And this is just a sample of one of the new buildings. We're changing from chlorine disinfection at the treatment plant to a little more environmentally friendly UV treatment technology. So there's the kind of the filter building and UV treatment building. And that's about it. I'd be happy to take any questions if there are any.
I have a question about, there's a well casing north of Side Road 18 on the west side of the BD line. So it's just in some guy's driveway?
Yes.
You know where it is?
Oh, yes,
okay.
yes.
What is it?
What is that? Right. I believe it was put in as part of the well field capacity assessment, those wells that are just west of BD on that guy's driveway. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I believe when we implemented the well field capacity study, part of it was updating our groundwater model. And so as part of that work, a number of deep bedrock wells were drilled across the community, and that's one of them. It's just to collect a bit more information so we can accurately model kind of how much water there is available. Yeah.
Have you got a plan to put in another bridge to take the traffic out of downtown? I'm looking at some of those trucks trying to navigate, and they are bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're getting stuck in the intersections. That can't be good for that bridge. Mm. And if we're going to be going up to, 40,000 by 2025, you got to do something about a relief road for the highway. Mm-hmm. Is that in the plans? Have you thought about it?
It's definitely been thought about.
And it's too big and scary to do anything, right?
Well, it would be a big project. We have a development charges bylaw which kind of plans out the infrastructure requirements needed to service new growth.
Are you looking at it from dollars first, or are you looking at it from needs first, and then figuring out how the dollars are going to do it?
Always both. This Fergus bypass is in the development charges bylaw. It is a project that's been identified. It's in our capital forecast.
When?
But that's a good question. I don't think we have an exact time frame.
I'm just waiting for one of those big trucks to go through the bridge this summer.
Mm-hmm.
For us locally. So those are things that we're still continuing to try to discuss with the MTO to say, what are alternate routes to be able to get some of the traffic through the town.
Okay.
Thank you, Colin. We do appreciate that some of those maps were pretty small and almost very difficult or impossible for many of you to see. After this evening, the presentation will be posted on the Centre Wellington Chamber website, and it is also being videotaped through Cogeco, and Michael's taping it with the plan of putting it on as a link, a YouTube link on the Chamber website. So if you do want to be able to review some of the mapping and some of the specifics, there'll be an opportunity for you to do that. Our next speaker, speaking on new developments and growth projections and the community improvement plan, is Brett Salmon.
Thank you, Janet. Last year when we were here in June, you heard about our new organizational structure. And so one of the things that's resulted is that my position now is Managing Director of Planning and Development. And so we're responsible for planning, economic development, and building. We saw those as three functions that were integrated that could work together to provide a better level of customer service. Andy asked me to talk about new developments that are happening in Centre Wellington in 2014. Colin alluded to some of them. We have, after several years of, at least in Fergus, not very much new subdivision activity. We actually have 3 new ones that are coming on stream, and so people will be able to buy new houses and move into our community from elsewhere. One of them is St. Andrew's subdivision. It's the extension of McQueen Boulevard to the west. That part is done now, and there's a highway commercial block on the corner of McQueen and Tower, and there's also a retirement home block just behind it. So we hope to be able to see those projects move ahead this year. Related to that development is one that's called Westminster Highlands. It's being developed by Reed's Heritage Group. It's the extension of Aberdeen Street in South Fergus. Reed's Heritage Group are the builder in there, and they've got over 300 units, some single detached lots, townhouse lots, and a large multiple block that has a couple of apartment buildings that you'll see going up in the south end of Fergus soon. And another one is Beatty Hollow, which is on Beatty Line in the north end of Fergus. And that's Keating Construction developed that subdivision. They'll be the builder, of course. There's more than 160 units in there. Single detached units, again, townhouse units, as well as a small apartment building. And the other unique feature of this particular development, which is that there's a church site. And that site originally was acquired by a church, Grand River Community Church, and they realized they had more land than they needed, so they were able to partner with Keating in order to bring that development on stream. So in addition to the residential development, we also have site plan approval for a church. So you may have seen the road that's going in there. I think it's called Farley Road. They got partially finished building that last year, and they'll be finishing it off this year, I'm sure, as soon as the weather allows. And then also up in the north end of Fergus is the Strathlee subdivision, which Colin alluded to. That's north of Side Road 18 in Fergus. And McPherson Builders will be the builder in that development. You've probably seen some of their advertisements over the last several months. And last year we were able to, after many months of hard negotiation, we negotiated a service financing agreement with them. So they're underway now servicing that development. They just got underway in March, I think. And they're bringing the services in from Beatty Line. So just to go over on a map where some of the developments are down in the south end, St. Andrews Village. There's a commercial site on the corner and then a retirement block, another smaller commercial development, so that's McQueen Boulevard in there. Aberdeen Street comes up and connects to Elora Street, and Reed's Heritage are building in there. The large multiple block, there's a couple of apartment buildings that will be going up right here. Both of which are, one of which will be a rental building, and the other one is an ownership condominium. And then up in the north end, here's BD Line. Farley Road is the road that goes in. The church site is right here, and inside, internal, Keating has single detached lots in this area and more townhouses in a small apartment block. And then Strathlee, which is servicing right now, is right now extending services from BD Line into the entry of the subdivision, and then the internal subdivision will start at this end. And there's over 200 units available. So we have quite a significant supply of lots available. That's good for development, for construction, for contractors in the community. It's good for our building permit revenue and our development charge collection. So we're hoping to see some big improvements in those areas in the next few years. In terms of the Fergus Industrial Park, last year we completed site servicing and a couple of site plan approvals for two lots that we'd sold a few years ago on Gregson Court in Fergus. So we're hoping that those are ready to go, where they have site plan approval and they could come in for building permits anytime. Whiteman Telecom, we've sold a piece of land up in the North End Industrial Park, and they're going to be talking to you later about their program to bring fiber to the home to Center Wellington. And we also have a private development that's bought some land, and they're working on a industrial development to extend Dixon Drive farther to the east. And there's a program that the provincial government has sponsored called the Certified Site Program. And the owners have registered with the Certified Site Program, so it's going to put that land on the radar for provincially for people who are looking for industrial land that's readily available. So we're quite excited about that, because in the past, our development has always been, people have always looked to the municipality to be the ones to develop the industrial land, and in this case, we have a private sector developer that's willing to take on the challenge. In terms of future growth planning, one of our significant projects that's taken place over the last few years and into the foreseeable future is a growth strategy, and that's a plan for when and how growth will occur. We're looking at some of the studies that Colin mentioned on the long-term servicing. We're looking at improvements that we need to make for individual sewers. Our engineers can model the entire sewer and water system, and we can anticipate future development and future population growth, and they can plug that into the model, and we can identify sections of sewer that are deficient. So we can use that to identify areas where we first direct and prioritize development in areas that don't have some of those infrastructure deficiencies. We're working on a community improvement plan that will provide incentives for brownfield development and downtown redevelopment, and that we're partway through the process. We had some stakeholder consultation with development groups and the BIAs in the fall, and there'll be another round of stakeholder workshops coming up soon at the end of April, and we're hoping to complete that plan in the summer, probably in July or August. It will come to council. If you want to know more about what a community improvement plan does, currently under the Municipal Act, we're forbidden from giving grants or bonuses or incentives to developers to try to stimulate them to develop their properties. But there's a provision in the Planning Act for the municipality to prepare a community improvement plan, and if we have a community improvement plan in place, it does authorize us to give some bonuses or incentives that are otherwise forbidden. So one of the things that we anticipate and that the BIAs, I think, are interested in, we would anticipate having a facade loan improvement program. So we could give loans or perhaps grants to property owners who want to improve the outward appearance of the building. And one of the things that the landmark development in Elora, which we'll talk about in more detail, has brought to our attention is that their development is meant to obviously focus on the river in Elora. And so in addition to having people want to improve their properties from the street side, we'd also like to have a program that encourages people to improve their properties on the riverside. So we may be able to offer a loan or something that just helps somebody financially make that kind of improvement to their property viable. At the end of the day, the more people spend on upgrading the property, the better the revenue for the municipality that we'll get back. And so another way that we can use a community improvement plan is we can, if a property owner undertakes some fairly significant improvements that substantially raise the value of the property, we can have a grant program that phases in the increase in taxes that would result from the higher property value. So often it can take the form of sort of 10 years. So in the first year, you would get back 90% of your taxes, the second year 80, and then so after 10 years before you're paying the full rate. That's one way that we can stimulate development to bring some of these sites on stream. Other places that have done it, the city of Guelph, they see a huge increase in investment in their downtown cores and on brownfield sites resulting from programs like that. The whole goal of the growth strategy is to align our infrastructure, our development approvals, and our financing with all of our other municipal plans and strategies so that we have, instead of responding to development demands, that we've set out a program for which areas of the community we'd like to see develop in what order. That's based on our ability to finance and based on the infrastructure that needs to go in. And that's all I have. Next step is economic development. So I'd like to introduce Pat Rutter.
Many of you will be meeting Patricia Rutter for the first time tonight. She's our new economic development officer from the Township of Centre Wellington. Welcome.
Thank you, Janet. I just thought before I got started, I would give you an idea of what economic development officer actually does. So you'll forgive me, I have some notes so I don't forget anything. We help to facilitate the economic development strategy that the township has developed and implement the priority actions. The Business Retention and Expansion Program, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about in a few minutes, involves questionnaire development, visitations, and analysis of results. We facilitate connections between businesses, between local agencies, with the municipality, and with the provincial and federal governments. One of our big jobs is marketing and promoting the community to outside investors and assisting local investors. And one of the things that I'm going to be doing this year is trying to develop an inventory of available land and land and buildings that are for sale or for lease, so that when an investor or an inquiry comes in, I'm able to tell them very quickly what is available. So the Business Retention and Expansion Program is one of the big projects that I've been undertaking since I arrived at the township. And one of the reasons, I'm just going to give you some background about why everyone has wanted to do a Business Retention and Expansion Program. It's in the corporate strategic plan for the township. They identified a need for a Business Retention and Expansion Program. The County of Wellington did a strategic plan for economic development in 2012, and they recognized the BR&E program as a top priority. The county also received some funding under the Communities in Transition program to do a full program with the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Rural Affairs. So the program actually commenced in September of 2013. We completed 270 interviews. That's not just me, it was all of the participating townships in the county. And the interviews were completed in February of 2014. Essentially, a Business Retention and Expansion Program is a community-based economic development program that helps to support existing businesses. It's delivered through questionnaires that are conducted during personal interviews with business owners and operators. We had one of the important things about the Business Retention Program is identifying red flags. And red flags are issues that are urgent and need immediate attention. We actually identified a couple in Centre Wellington, and they have been addressed. They weren't of a serious nature in terms of losing jobs or losing a business, but they were issues that helped the businesses that we were interviewing to conduct their business in a better way. The results have been analyzed, and action plan at the county level has been developed to address the issues that were raised. So a goal of the Business Retention and Expansion Program is to build relationships with existing businesses, demonstrate and provide community support for local businesses, address urgent business issues, those are the red flag issues, improve communication between the community, the township, and local businesses. And the most important thing is to retain those businesses and jobs where there may have been a risk of closure. So just to give you some idea of what some background on what the Business Retention and Expansion Program did, we interviewed 35 businesses in 4 different sectors: manufacturing, healthcare, agriculture, and the creative sector. You can see, whoops. You can see here, you probably can't see, but you will be when you look at online, what the distribution of businesses were. We did 11 visits in the creative economy and 7 in healthcare. We did 8 in manufacturing and 9 in agriculture. And just some of the results were 97% of the business owners were involved in the day-to-day operation of their businesses. 66% were involved open for more than 10 years. 77% of the businesses that we looked at had a local or regional market as their primary market, but 23% of the businesses actually had a national or international market as their primary market, which is something that both the federal and the provincial government is really trying to encourage in terms of business growth, and that usually happens when they have an export market, and we do have a pretty significant chunk of our business community that's doing that. One of the most interesting facts for me was that all of the businesses indicated that they were either stable or expanding. Even those businesses that told me that their industry itself was in decline, they were planning on at least remaining the same, which is a very encouraging sign for the strength of our local economy. The next, I know you're not going to be able to see this very well. In fact, up here I can't even see it very well, but just to let you know, these are the factors. We asked people about the factors for doing business in Centre Wellington. It was based on a scale of poor, fair, good, and excellent. This is 50% here. And as you can see, the factors for doing business in Centre Wellington were rated good or better in almost every instance, and except, and I know this isn't going to surprise anyone, down here at the bottom where we talked municipal taxes, land costs, and development charges. But that's actually fairly consistent with results that most communities get, because nobody likes to pay taxes. So what are we going to do with the results? And there are more results that will come out in a larger report. During the fall and winter, this past fall and winter, new terms of reference were developed for the Township of Wellington's, Centre Wellington, Economic Development Advisory Committee. It allowed for much more significant representation from the business community. So we have 7 new representatives from the business community on that committee now, including the Chamber's own Janet Harrop. One of their first items that they're going to be dealing with is the full results from the Business Retention and Expansion Program, and we'll be developing an action plan based on those results. When that happens, we'll release a full report will be prepared for the Business Retention and Expansion Program with the action plan. But one of the things I really wanted to do is thank those businesses that I had the opportunity to visit, and they participated in the program. They were a great help to me, and it was really nice to get out and see the business community when I was new to the community myself. And I really look forward to coming out and seeing a lot more of the businesses, local businesses in the near future. Thank you. Any questions?
In a nutshell, I'm concerned about the industrial area, or industrial park. Has the town considered in purchasing certain parcel, I'll remain nameless, to expand the industrial park so possibly we can get another automotive plant. Like, if you look at Arthur with Musashi, you look at Elora, Jefferson Elora, we're right in between, heading to Alliston, that we should be soliciting an automotive plant to go here. But I think first we have to purchase a certain piece of land up there that is kind of blocked expansion. I am up there on Gregson Court, but I had to move down the street because of minimum separating distance, which that land cannot be built on. And I'll leave the rest, leave it alone. I just like in a nutshell explain, what are we going to do? We've lost some places up there in industry closed down. We need to improve to make it more appreciative to companies coming into this town in appearance.
Well, I think Brett addressed the fact that there's lands contiguous to the current industrial park in North Fergus that are currently under study for expansion of the industrial area up there. I think your last point was addressing the physical environment up there. I haven't had a chance to look at that, but I would agree with you that there is need for more commercial and industrial space in the township. And that's one of the things we'll probably be talking about in terms of the results of the Business Retention and Expansion Program. I don't know if anybody else has anything else to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. One of the items that was identified in the Business Retention and Expansion project was access to internet and high-speed internet, fiber optic type internet. Whiteman Communication are here this evening. I'll give them a couple minutes to come up here and just talk briefly about the business opportunities that having fiber optic in the community could bring. They also do have some pamphlets here just for some interest because it is something new and exciting in the community.
Thank you, Janet, and I'd also just like to say thank you to the town as well as the Chamber for giving us a few minutes this evening to speak. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Hope Robertson, and I'm the Marketing Manager at Whiteman Telecom. Happy to be here this evening alongside Whiteman's CEO, Rob Filiuzzi, as well as Whiteman's Sales Representative for Fergus and Elora, Jackie Ferguson. So thank you very much for having us. For those of you who aren't familiar with Whiteman Telecom, we are one of the oldest independent communications companies in Canada. We were founded in 1908 by farmer Robert Whiteman, and to this day in 2014, we're still family-owned by fourth-generation Whitemans, Paul and Blair. And Whiteman Telecom is probably most widely recognized for our fiber-to-the-home solutions, which brings me to why we're here this evening. We're thrilled to be embarking on a multi-year project in Fergus and Elora, bringing fiber to the home, and when I say fiber to the home, I actually mean fiber to the home and business, to homes within Fergus and Elora. So you may know us right now as your local provider for phone and internet, but with Whiteman's Fiber to the Home, we will be able to offer residential and business customers within Fergus and Elora phone service, as well as some of the fastest internet speeds in Canada, and also our digital television service. So that is a pretty exciting thing, and some of you may be wondering, like, okay, well, that's great, Hope, but what's fiber? Just to explain to you a little bit about the technology, fiber to the home replaces conventional copper services, so like coaxial cable and telephone wire, and it basically enables providers like Whiteman Telecom to provide some of the fastest internet speeds, and for Whiteman, it will also make us what we like to call future-proof. So any of the necessary bandwidth that's needed in the future, Whiteman will be able to deliver on. We're the only provider in the area who will be bringing fiber to the home, a direct fiber optic line straight into your home or straight into your business. So we are pretty proud of that, and we're pretty excited to get started on this project. As I mentioned, it is a multi-year project, so we are counting on about 5 years of construction, and the 2014 phase of that is set to begin within the next couple of weeks. And we've divided it into 5 phases. As Janet mentioned, we do have available in the lobby on the table this great Whiteman Telecom Fiber to the Home guide for Centre Wellington. And within this, you will find not just information about our services, but also our construction map with what we've laid out to be our 5 phases. So we are just beginning, so this could change, but for now this kind of gives you an idea of when our service will be available within your area. So I do hope that you'll pick that up. And also, our office here in Fergus at 490 St. Andrew Street West will be open on Monday, April 28th. So I do hope, whether you're a resident or a business owner or maybe both, that you will stop in and see us. And also Jackie's and myself, our business cards are out there in the lobby too. So please feel free to contact us with any questions that you might have. Thanks, Janet.
Our next presenter with an update around the Elora Mill project will be combined Andy Goldie and Brett Salmon.
Thanks, Janet. Good evening, everyone. Brett and I kind of drew the short straws tonight for this presentation. Unfortunately, Landmark representative wasn't able to make it this evening due to another family commitment. So they provided us their presentation that they recently did to Township Council. And so Brett and I are going to try and walk through that and give you information. If we're unable to answer any of the questions for you this evening, we will check with Landmark and get someone to get back to you. But it's an exciting project for our entire community and something that I think everybody's looking forward to with regards to the redevelopment of the Little Folk property and along the banks of the Grand River. They are moving along very quickly with the development, and kind of some of the exciting news they share with council is they're currently working on the renovation plans for the existing mill on the north side and hoping to begin construction this spring, as well as opening for sometime in the early 2015, probably the spring 2015, as long as construction season goes along very well for them. So we're all excited about that, and I know our Laura BIA are very excited about it. And as Colin had mentioned, we're working to making sure that some of the projects that were tied into those developments are going to be well completed before the grand opening of the Elora Mill. And then they're also looking at moving along the development application for the south side, and we being at our senior level working with the developers on a monthly basis, meeting with them in order to keep the project on track and making sure that we can meet the timeframes that they're looking for. So most of this slide presentation is images, because I know most of us are visual learners and are excited about some of the opportunities here. As you can see, the existing mill on the bottom corner of the slide, and their proposal across the river with the condominium development, the expansion of the hotel and conference center and banquet, as well as a chapel, and as well as some commercial space and residential space to the eastern lands of it. And they're being very, very diligent in making sure they're working with us and the downtown BI to ensure that we have parking not only for their development, but for the entire downtown as well. There are 2 bridge structures that they're looking at. The one beside the blue arrow is a glass enclosed bridge that they are looking for. As you enter there, you would come to the site from the south side, enter into the main forecourt, and cross over in the bridge into the old mill for the rooms. And then the other bridge, as Colin had mentioned, we've already done some preliminary work on the piers there, and structures looking for a pedestrian bridge to replace the old Victoria Street Bridge. And we have a very willing developer that's very excited to work with us on making sure that that's part of this overall development at the same time. So as the kind of an update of where they are with some of the land planning approvals. So as you can mention, there's a lot of planning pieces to this, and we have been working with them for probably about 1.5 years, 2 years now. and they do already have an official plan amendment approval for the site for rezoning, and that was processed, as well as the County of Wellington issued approvals of the applications early last year. And they've also, as part of the Jeremy Dam reconstruction last winter, they were able to move some of the concrete slabs in the river dam that were the old piers in the river there. So we noticed just during the recent floods on heavy water that 255 cubic meters per second of water flowing through in behind the Allure downtown, and previously we would have been at the flooding stage at about 120 cubic meters. So we've nearly doubled the capacity within the river with the work that we've done with the Jeremy Dam with the GRCA. So that's had a lot of relief for our downtown businesses on the Allure. So a number of the processes that they've already approved for 13 is the new bridge pier removals for the Allure Mill, and they've been working with the GRCA and M&R, and those processes are working along very well. They have hired their architect now to do the urban design of the overall plan. They're right now working with the engineers for site servicing, as well as the architects, as well as the heritage planner consultant that they have on board, looking at the overall development to ensure that it meets the requirements that the community is going to be looking for. We do meet monthly with them, with their team and our team, to be sure that we keep things moving forward, and if there's something we're needing or something that they're needing, we're trying to keep those in track to the best of our abilities. And they've also done their environmental assessment, and if I recall, Brett, they just received approval for the old hydro Sleuthway that they'll be operating that hopefully in 2015 in order to generate hydro generation through their property as well. And they're also very keen in participating within our community. They've already sponsored a couple events with Millfest and the Horse and Hound Parade last fall. So this is an overall kind of air photography type thing with the overall development. Again, the mill on the north side, the Victoria Street Bridge, the glass enclosed bridge crossing for the two hotels, the condominium development to the west, and then the hotel and commercial on the north banks, the south banks. And there are some planned buildings on the easterly part that weren't shown in this drawing, but those are things that we're working with them, as in the fact that those two properties are actually township-owned properties at this stage. So next is just an artist rendition of what they're looking at for the existing mill. As I say, they have the structural engineers and architects looking through the building, and I know Brian Blackmere was on site yesterday with a number of our local utilities from Wayne Dice with Hydro and that, looking at some service requirements within that building and how they're going to be able to accommodate some of the newer amenities that they're going to be building within it, as well as they're very keen and committed to making sure that the heritage values of the old mill are retained as part of the renovations to the old mill. These are just some of the images. So this would be across on the south side, just at the end of the Victoria Street Bridge, with the chapel being the main focus. We're looking at some sort of a fountain or kind of main community area with some commercial space and then residential space to on the upper floors. But the main area here and what Landmark's prime business with regards to their hotel and convention will be weddings. They have successful operations in a number of other municipalities, and currently are just underway with a major expansion of the renovation and expansion at Whistlebear Golf Course in Cambridge. The mayor and I were just at a meeting with them a couple of weeks ago with the owner, and the Whistlebear Golf Course in previous years would host somewhere between 25 and 30 weddings per year. They are going to be reopening that site in July 1st of this year. And between July 1st and the end of the year, they already have 122 weddings booked for that new facility. So they really do market very well, and it's a piece that they do very well at business. This would be some of the internal streets, kind of heading east-west on the south shore, with laneway, commercial plazas on either side, and some residential or artist space on the upper floors. Very pedestrian oriented. It will be probably a one-way street system, but trying to keep it very pedestrian oriented, very European feel with regards to the pedestrian linkages throughout the community. Again, just more of the open space and the streetscapes coming down with a visual vista at the back, the far end with a clock tower or something of that nature. These are just images at this stage, but they're really looking at creating those expectations and welcoming visitors into their overall development. This would be the entry, the main forecourt for their hotel with the reception area, the glassed area, so you could see back right through to the Grand River. The hotel to the left, they're looking at somewhere between 60 and 100 rooms altogether, and then their convention and chapel space to the right. So this is just kind of a site plan over the overall piece. Some of the key things that we're working with them to ensure the community realm, obviously, is the Victoria Street pedestrian bridge, and then making sure that throughout the north and south shore that we do have public access through the entire river, Grand and Irvine Creek sections, so that there will be public access. The property on the south will probably still be in private ownership, but we will have public access and public easements to ensure that the entire community can enjoy the overall development. So some of the objectives we're working on with them currently are getting the building permits for the existing mill. Our understanding from them at our meeting last week was with regards to that they hope to have building permits to us by the end of the month, early May. Also looking at working to get our site plan application for lands on the south side and beginning on the infrastructure works before the end of this year. Really part of this, as Brett talked about with our community improvement plan, that's something that we're looking at trying to work with the developer to provide incentives to be able to bring this development to fruition. So we're working through that with our CIP consultants as well as some financial assistance and looking at how we can best make this happen for the entire community so it's a benefit for everyone. And the hydro facility is something that they're very excited about. They do have the permits and everything that allow for that. And I believe they're making the turbines being made in Germany. I think, and they're hoping to have that in place later this year to start up for 2015. Some of the things that we're excited about, and kind of the theme of some of the things we're talking about tonight, is the economic benefits to the overall community. So these are their presentation and their numbers. We haven't gone through the analysis and confirmed or not, but these are what they're proposing that they're hoping to be able to provide to our community. So 205 full-time jobs with 40 part-time jobs. They are looking at full-time maintenance staff on site. So a total of about 250 new jobs to our community, which is great, exciting news. About $22 to $23 million in wages and construction during the overall project. About 400,000 person hours and 189 person years of work. And some of the significant dollars as part of this development will be their development charges to ourselves, to the county, as well as to the school boards, but that then just helps build and maintain the number of our existing infrastructure as we move forward. So we're very excited about this development. We're looking forward to it coming and breaking ground into our community, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. And like I say, if we can't answer the questions, we'll make sure we can get some folks from Landmark to respond to you as well. So thank you.
We have a big parking issue in Aurora right now, and I just wonder, with all this development, where you plan on parking everybody?
Yeah, so part of the development is they are looking at doing parking garage as part of it, as well as we're talking about on some of the streets, enhancing some of the parking and looking at some of the opportunities in the area to develop more parking in conjunction with the development. They're very cognizant of the fact that they do not want to create any additional burden on the existing downtown parking situation. So I do believe in all of our discussions, they're very keen in meeting or exceeding the requirements that they are anticipating for their development, as well as assisting with the existing parking situation in our downtown. So we're working with them, cognizant of the fact that we need to address that for not only existing downtown merchants, but also for the future of this development as well.
I just wanted to let everybody know that the Landmark Group are actually part of our Doors Open, which is the Centre Wellington Heritage this year. It's on Saturday, June 21. So if anyone has actual more questions for the Landmark people, they will be there to support the community.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you very much. Seems to be a bit of a running theme here tonight. The highway bypass, industrial land, the Landmark Group, and the hospital, all of them which we at one time or another wondered would ever happen. And it does look like some of them are happening and some of them are underway. So the next speaker is Gord Finiak from the Building Committee and Jane McKenzie from the Groves Memorial Community Hospital Foundation to speak about the new Groves Memorial Community Hospital.
Well, yes. I don't know what to think of that, Janet. I'm still thinking about that. I was going to say that we have the distinction at the hospital, I think, of being the project that was started first, talked about first, and we'll probably be the ones that are finished last. And we don't think that's through lack of effort. There's probably some explanation that's warranted for why that is. And so very briefly, I will I'll go way back and say that a little over 10 years ago, there were identified needs to renovate the hospital. And it was agreed that there would be a fairly significant renovation project needed. The Ministry of Health said to the community, you're going to have to ante up by showing that you'll pay your share. The community did fundraising, raised the money in record time, went back to the ministry, said, we're ready to go. The ministry said, oh, yeah, but there's new standards, and there's going to have to be more extensive renovation. And what that meant was that it no longer even made sense to do a renovation. It was getting to the point where it was the same cost as building a new hospital, and it would take far longer to work around an existing building, and it would be more difficult to expand in the future. And the funding mechanism changed, and everybody agreed that a new hospital made more sense. So that change was made, and some work was done which led to an application in 2008 to construct a new hospital. And partway along, there were changes where there hadn't been such a thing as the LIN, the Health Integration Network, that now is a body that sits between the Ministry of Health and a local hospital board. And so they had to review it and talk from an integration perspective as to whether they would agree, which they did. And all of this happened, a key date for us, a very key date, was August of 2011, when the minister came to Fergus and announced that there would indeed be a new hospital. And that announcement was to say that it would be built, but the planning process, we had to start and go through. We were told we'd been halfway through a number of the steps. And so the approval was to construct a hospital to go to tender in the 2014 fiscal year, which goes from April 1st, 2014 to March 31st, 2015. And we had a lot of work to do in the planning to get there. So what that means is you hire first a functional planner who reviews the functions that the hospital's fulfilling in detail, every small department, every service, and analyzes what we're doing today and tries to project what we may be doing in the future. And that's not just a straight line, doubling or anything, because the way that health services are provided changes. So things like the number of patient days has gone down. People don't stay in the hospital as long as they used to, which means you need less beds, and as you have growth, you don't necessarily have the number of beds growing at the same time. So all of this was studied and went through a process and was satisfactory to everyone. And we then went to a process of the next step, which is putting those pieces together and assembling what services go beside what other services in the hospital. And we hit a snag on that. We got to that stage a little over a year ago now, and we expected that it would be relatively straightforward, but as we worked through it, we found that we were caught between a couple different points of view. The cost of health care in Ontario has been going up faster than revenues. It's unsustainable. It's been going for some time, and it's on this path that something has to give. And the solution to that has been accepted, I think, by the Ministry of Health and by the LHIN, that what we have to do is integrate better, become more efficient, and that the different providers of health care cannot work independently and send a patient from one to another, but they have to work as a team. And sharing these efficiencies will help Ontario be able to pay for its health care in the future. That's an action plan of the Ministry of Health, and it's also strongly supported by our LHIN. The LHIN oversees not just hospitals, but long-term care facilities, community care, mental health, and various providers that they'd like to work more closely together. And in fact, their name is the Local Health Integration Network. They're in the business of integrating. And they saw the hospital project as a great opportunity to do that physically, to create a building where different providers could come together and it would be one-stop shopping for a patient. Where we'd started with a campus and with an intention of having healthcare facilities in proximity, the LHIN just took it that one step further. And that was great, and that's in keeping with the Ministry of Health. Where we got into spending time and having some difficulty was in working that through the process of a fairly stringent arrangement to build hospitals in Ontario. They're funded by the government to a large extent, and the government needs to have pretty stringent rules about how their money is spent, and there's expectations not only in the design, but in the execution of how these projects are done. And when it came to let's have a building that's not just a hospital, but shared by all these other users, well, those other users have different funding mechanisms, and there's different parts of the government that provide them. And many of them don't own buildings, they lease buildings. And so when you try to get a funding model to work for an integrated facility, we had to start creating new rules. And we had difficulties making the old ones work. And we worked our way through 2013 trying to work those things out. And the position of Groves was that we would be delighted with a hospital, we would be delighted with a bigger integrated care facility, but please don't delay us. That was important to us, that we meet that deadline of going to tender in that 2014 fiscal year. And as we got towards the end of 2013, that became more important, that timing was starting to be an issue. We reached a compromise where we are committed as a hospital to a future plan of integration. We're going to build a hospital as fits with the current regulations and guidelines, and we're designing and we're committed to a building in close proximity to it. And in the future, we have intentions of joining those buildings. And that may seem like a fairly simple solution, but it took us a long time to get to it. And right now, those buildings are going through what we think is a fairly close to final process with the Ministry of Health to just make sure, they want to be sure that a future expansion of the hospital won't be compromised by this building. So I hope you can see this okay. This is I'm looking for a green button. This is the concept plan. So for your orientation, it's a little odd. This is BD line. And if I were to show the Price Chopper, I was almost going to forget the name. The plaza's down here, and the road to Elora runs along here, but it curves. So that the museum is, oh no, I'm sorry, it's right there. And there's the museum, the OPP station. So The land that was purchased for this was purchased in conjunction with the county, 105 acres, which is presently farmland, more or less where I've drawn the circle. And we've worked with the county very closely in the township to go through a planning process to get us into the development. And we've partnered together, and you may be aware that a planning study was done for all of these areas. And the result being that the county's got intentions to develop this area with various uses that are county functions. And the blue area would be the hospital lands, backing onto the trail, and having access with a road in front that joins Beatty Line and comes up at the corner now that this is the Wellington Terrace, and going this way takes you down to Colburn Street. So that aspect of it, the land aspect, has advanced very well. We're through those planning changes. We're ready to go from a planning perspective. And the county has made commitments towards the hospital long ago, and part of that has been fulfilled by buying the land on behalf of the hospital. And starting very soon, the county will be overseeing construction of the road, which is great. Tenders close May 1st, and so that road will be built this year, so that when we go to build the hospital, we don't have a contractor building a road at the same time as we have people building the hospital. You can see the titles here of the hospital and the integrated care facility, and it's pretty hard to see much else. I hope you can see this one. It's not as don't take it to the bank. It's not a final drawing. It's been submitted. We think it's fairly close to final in terms of the Ministry of Health, and we're anticipating that they will accept it, but they haven't done that yet. And once we get through that process, it'll go to another provincial agency called Infrastructure Ontario, and they would be in the business of constructing infrastructure, but they would oversee the construction, and because there's such a high amount being paid by the province, they would control that process. But what we have, for your orientation, this would be the road the county's building, with the Beatty Line on this end and Wellington Terrace on this end. This would be a helipad, which is designed to sort of be where you're not going to get helicopters interfering with things and trying to get to the height of land. An emergency department in proximity to that. We are a little bit unusual at Groves that we have the public sharing the same entrance as the emergency department, so that would be a change, where the main entrance now would be in the front, which would be separate in the hospital building. This building here is what we're calling the integrated health facility, and so the types of uses in there, we would see family health teams in there. We would see potentially mental health services, community care. We may have some related uses as well. We'd like to have it come shortly after the hospital, possibly at the same time. We can't make a commitment, and we're in the position of anybody else who's building a building privately. We need to have commitments with our tenants. We need to know when we do it, and then we would go ahead and start doing something like that. We have shown the little link in between, and our intention would be in the future those buildings would join together, and there would be a common entrance. And the section at the back towards the trail would be the future expansion. So that's where we are, and Jane McKenzie didn't have her name here. I'd like to ask her to come. So we're clear on who everybody is at the hospital. There are 3 separate corporations that exist and work closely together. So I would be speaking as a member of the building committee on the hospital board, and the board would oversee the running of the hospital proper. We have the Volunteer Association as a separate corporation. They run the op shop. They provide wonderful services in the hospital. They provide all volunteer services. They're a very strong and large group for the size of facility we have. And the third corporation is the Gross Foundation, and they would be in charge of fundraising for the hospital and stewarding the funds. So Jane is representing them, and she'll have a few words to say on that with respect to the new hospital. And I'll stay here for questions.
Thanks, Gord. So from the Foundation's perspective, last year we did a feasibility study in our community to get some information about our community and giving. So we're really happy to get that done, set up a base for us to have some sort of structure going into such a large campaign. So that went really well, and we have that. The next thing we went to tender to hire a campaign manager. I'm happy to say that Marissa, who's with KCI, started 2 weeks ago. So we do have a campaign manager in our location at the Foundation. And already at my last board meeting last week, she's given us a 90-day plan. So needless to say, there's a lot of work we have to do. So I'm really happy about that. We've also developed a steering committee. It's between 6 and 8 people from our community who are going to be with us for about a year, and their main job is to put together our capital campaign, volunteers, that organization, so that we can raise the money for the new hospital. As you probably already know as well, that we do an annual campaign every year for the hospital. They always like sending us little letters saying, please, can we have more money? So we, as you know, are in our digital mammography campaign. It was for last year and this year. Happy to say that we're well over half of raising that money, so soon we'll be able to go to the hospital and say they can put in their RFQ for that piece of machinery, which is awesome. And they will also come to us for this year on what they will need for their equipment. We have to keep our hospital running. We have awesome doctors and nurses and staff that work with the condition of the hospital right now, but we really do need a new hospital for many reasons, and the Foundation is there to support the hospital in every way we can. And really from the Foundation, I'd like to say to the community, thank you so much for all your support, and hopefully your continued support, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
And, I skipped that altogether.
Oh, did you skip one?
I skipped that, but that's okay. I'm sorry for that. But I was just going to have a question board, but maybe that'll give me an opportunity to talk a little bit about timeline. And so when I say that we're coming to the end of this stage here, and that'll put us into a process that'll get us into Infrastructure Ontario and detailed design. We're looking at the tenders. I'd said that we were mandated to do that in the 2014 fiscal year, which would end March 31st, 2015. We're going to be stressed to do that. It's still possible, but it's starting to look as if we may be a few months late. I'm pretty happy with that. I think in the scheme of things that's okay. It doesn't mean we're in jeopardy. And it'll be can you hear me okay? It'll be a fairly complex tender. It'll be a lengthy tendering period. We would expect to award somewhere near the end of 2015, and there will be a few years of construction after that. And now we will get to questions, if you have any.
All right, no questions.
No questions?
Wow, let's go.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. One of the items that came out of the Business Retention and Expansion Project, the businesses that were interviewed in Centre Wellington, was one of the top reasons for doing business in Centre Wellington was quality of life, which is hugely important. We do have a lot of people that drive through or away from our community to work in other places. So the exciting thing about tonight is we are seeing steps and different projects and different new facilities that are coming into the municipality that are going to allow people that live in Centre Wellington to be able to work in Centre Wellington. Also for our local businesses, there'll be opportunities for with all of the work that's going to be happening within our municipality, from facade, from building. I know the Landmark Group had talked of trying to use some local contractors if it was feasible. So there is a lot of work that's going to be going on in the municipality in the next few years. As I said previously, some of the things that have been in the planning process for a long time, and I know at the Chamber we often do get questions. When is the hospital going to open? When is the Elora Mill project going to be open? So it's great tonight that we had an opportunity to have some people speak to those specific projects to get a little bit more of a sense of a timeline as to when these items are going to be happening. Now, there was an opportunity for questions throughout the evening, but if there is anybody that has any other specific questions, the speakers do have mics at the table. If you wanted to just raise your hand, and Roberta has her mic, that they could ask a question. If you could just mention who you're addressing the question to and who you are, that would be very helpful.
There's one thing that I noticed tonight in the Wellington Advertiser on the front page, and maybe Andy can, it has to do with the old high school. I am surprised that this has been brought out to the public, with Maranatha Christian School moving to the old high school, which I think a lot of people in this community have wondered what is taking place up there. I think it's going to be great for that school. I work with them very closely with the Legion program, and I'd like Andy to explain what is going on. I think it's a great move for them to make.
Right. That's a great question, and we have been working with the local school and the team that have been looking at that. It is very much a private development, so that's not something we try to meddle in within two private, from a property owner and a purchaser. But I know Brett and Pat and a number of our staff have been providing information to the organization in order to look at what is possible for them on that site. And we've been working with them from probably now about a year, I think. It's back and forth with some questions and things of that nature. So we too are excited that that is going to be moving forward. We do not have any development plans or application at this stage as to what they're going to be doing on site, but to our understanding, it will be a high school. They're looking at, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 200, 300 children, or teenagers, children, in the years to come. And I believe they're looking at probably a couple years to be open. So we're still waiting, similar to you, to see some of the details and some of their schedules. But we're excited to see that project moving forward.
Any other questions? Always worries me when this gentleman puts his hand up.
Thanks, Roberta. I was told to introduce myself. I'm Ian Harrop, resident of Centre Wellington, and the other half of the fine lady who's chairing this meeting. My question, I guess it's a comment and a question, and it's directed at Colin. I guess the comment is, we've had a fairly difficult winter. However, I think the roads department and the staff should be commended for the fine job they've done. It's, I think we've got to have a little bit of patience in this. And I think as a long-term resident, this is what we're used to as we grew up. So, good God, I hope that goes away. But, I guess the question is, Colin, when you're talking about the bridges and all of the monumental tasks you're dealing with the 105 bridges out there, those in the rural community, I mean, we're moving larger and larger farm equipment, longer distances. And that, sometimes these bridges that are closed are causing us a bit of grief. And I'm just wondering, when you do the assessment, I think what you said was, of all those bridges, you're going to look at them all and see, at what stage they need to be replaced. Would that be some sort of a master plan that eventually you could, open up to the public and say, this is the strategy we have for dealing with all those bridges? And the one I'm bringing to your attention is, and I can't remember what road it is, it's on the Queen Mary, and I believe it's between the 4th and 5th line of West Garry, and it's the old steel bridge that somebody accidentally ran into and it was closed. So, I mean, it just as a long-term plan, I wonder if there's something that was out there.
Thanks, Ian, for your question. The bridges, it's a challenging issue. And just to throw out some numbers, like we do have 7 bridges closed, currently closed to vehicular traffic. And there's 5 bridges that we're watching very closely as well that will likely need to be closed within the next 5 years, unless we can replace them. So, and at that rate, we've actually almost every year for the last 10 years been replacing a bridge. So if you do some quick math, at the rate that we've been going, it would have been nice to be doing 2 a year, but unfortunately, all we can do is about 1 a year at this stage. In terms of an overall master plan, like we do have our capital forecast that kind of maps out the next 10 years of projects, and so we've really worked on, especially with our asset management plan over the last year. The province has made it pretty clear that if municipalities want to get provincial funding for large capital projects like roads and bridges, that they have to have a rationale for prioritization of those capital projects. So through our asset management plan process that we went through in 2013, we went through a rationale to try to look at the condition of the structure, the number of vehicles that structure would see on a given day, also any deficiencies like width, recognizing a lot of the older structures in the rural areas are single lane, and that doesn't cut it for a combine these days. And so we've really tried to take use that rationale to prioritize the projects at this point. So hopefully that answers your question.
Any other question?
Back to Colin again. On the St. David Street Bridge, you said some studies have been submitted to MTO. Mm-hmm. Have you identified how long you think that bridge would need to be under construction? And has there been a business impact analysis done as part of that on how that's going to affect the downtown core, and also with the amount of subdivisions that are going in and how that's also going to impact all that traffic that's going to be moving around?
Yeah, great question. At this point, we haven't done the business impact study. We're looking at probably a full construction season. It's a similar scale project as to the Tower Street Bridge replacement, where it's kind of right back to the abutments, being replaced. So it's a significant undertaking, no doubt. We will be going through an environmental assessment process, kind of again looking at details, getting in touch with all the business owners in the area, doing some consultation at that point before we go into detailed design. So there'll definitely be opportunity to really sit down with the local businesses and kind of work through the issues that this is going to create.
Any other questions? Oh, yeah, Andy?
If anybody's been over at Township office recently, you've seen a number of renovations to our facility. A number of those are to address our accessibility issues, as well as trying to centralize some of the businesses, so that if you're looking for building permits and development, you're down in our lower level, and then some of our finance and corporate services piece of your upper level. But over the next several months, I just want to let everybody know that we are going to be replacing the existing elevator, so that will close down the front entry for a couple months. We will be rerouting our customers to the back door and trying to provide our services that way. But the existing elevator is just about falling apart, and our piston in below is leaking. So we will be increasing the size of that elevator and making it so you don't have to come to ring a doorbell and get a key. We will be making it more meeting the guidelines from the provincial for accessibility. And we'll also be renovating some of with our council chambers in order that we can accommodate larger audiences. The last evening in our council meeting, we had a full chamber with residents talking about a public meeting for commercial development, as well as looking at trying to improve our communication. We've been working with Cogeco in order to look at live streaming our meetings so that we have more transparency, more opportunities for people to know what's happening in our community, as well as making our chamber better accessible for hearing and sound and things of that nature in our presentations, in order that the community better is aware of some of the things happening on a day-to-day basis with our municipality. So we're trying to improve our communications, and with that we're also upgrading our website. We're hoping to launch that this summer. We have a team of staff, and earlier this year we did some survey with the community about what they would like to see on our website, and shortly we'll be able to have our new telephone system up and operational, in order that you'll have one call number to make a call to any one of our departments, and then you will be dispatched to the various areas. For anybody that's tried to get a hold of our operations and call through our town office, you have to hang up, call a number, and then sometimes you get directed and have to hang up and again. So we're working to improve that, so in order that it will be one call, and our staff will be able to direct you around and connect you with those internal staff immediately, or able to take messages, so we're better able to communicate and provide answers and responses to you on a more timely basis. So we're really working on trying to improve our communications at the township with regards to accessibility, getting your services to you at the front door, as well as making our system and our services more available to you, either through watching live council meetings or communicating with through the telephone line or our websites as well.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Any other questions from the audience? Any other comments from the speakers that they didn't have a chance to cover, that they have a burning thought? No? Okay. Well, in closing, there is a chamber event update document that is at the back. Andy was speaking about accessibility. Our next breakfast, actually, the end of the month, April 30th, is at Van Galli's, and the talk will be on compliance with the Accessibility Act update with one of our board members, Lynn Bard. So if you're unsure as to whether you're compliant and what you need to do to be compliant with the accessibility guidelines, that's a good breakfast to attend. We're having our annual general meeting the end of May, the 28th of May, and our next business after hours is June 25th, and it'll actually be at our dairy farm. For people who have never seen a working dairy farm, we're opening the doors for people to come out. On behalf of the Chamber, we always welcome comments and input from businesses. The last few years, there's always issues that come forward that the Chamber has tries to help individual business owners. We try not to take a position on projects. We look always at, is the project good for the community? Is it good for business? Will it help businesses grow? And if it is, we always try to help and support those businesses. With some of the projects and some of the construction that takes place, it's definitely an inconvenience, and it's a financial burden to those businesses that are affected. And again, we welcome those businesses to come to the Chamber, come to the township to try to see what we can do. There's always those growing pains with any new project. They're unavoidable, unfortunately. The Chamber is continuing to work on with the township on several projects, the Economic Development Committee, the Community Improvement Plan. We are looking at, through the Chamber, of trying to go to the Ontario and the Canadian Chamber to continue to lobby on behalf of municipalities, rural municipalities especially, like ours, around the connecting links format of funding that is now missing, and to try to impress upon the province and lobbying through the Ontario Chamber, who have the ear of the Ontario ministers, the importance of that funding and what it means for a rural community. A few of the other projects that we're looking at is in the fall after the election is revisiting with the township the sign bylaw, always a controversial bylaw, but it is a significant bylaw for doing business in the municipality, and the Chamber will be working closely with the township on that. If there are any other issues that businesses have that are members that can come to the Chamber or to the Township. We always welcome that. We thank everybody for coming out tonight. I thank the staff at the Chamber, Roberta and Heather, for helping to organize tonight. I thank TV Kojiko for being here to videotape, as well as Michael Weinstein up in the bleachers up there, who's done the audio-visual for today from the Weinstein Group. Thank you for that. And finally, we just want to talk just again about our Awards of Excellence that are coming up. The Awards of Excellence will be taking place on May the 15th here at this building, and it's an opportunity to recognize businesses and people in our community that make a significant impact. The tickets are on sale now between April 14th and May 2nd. If you purchase them at the Bank of Nova Scotia, there's matching dollars, their support to community events, their matching a matching program for the tickets. They can be purchased there by cash or check made out to the Chamber. That's all that I have. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming out. The people up front here, as well as Joanne and ourselves, will be here for a little bit longer if anybody has any questions. And in closing, I just want to thank everybody again for coming out this evening. Thank you very much.